Here we go. There we go. Fantastic.
Alrighty.
All right, let's get her connected here, ladies and gentlemen. We are connected, and we now have the infamous Baby Doll on the 12-hour Bowling Marathon podcast, raising money for the homeless, which I could be too in a matter of days. Baby Doll, how are you doing?
I'm well. I'm outside, so if you hear a rooster crow or a turkey gobble,
that won't be you.
I'm right in the middle of feeding everything.
So if I hear a rooster or a turkey or a goat or something, it's not you.
No, not this time.
That is fantastic. Baby Doll, people have been so, and pardon me for calling you Baby Doll. I've known you as Baby Doll so long, I had trouble remembering your name, and all I could do to find you to remember to get you in there, because I just didn't remember. We followed each other for a while, but I couldn't remember that your name. Do you pronounce it Nicola?
Yeah, Nicola. My dad's name is Nick,
yeah.
And my mother's name is Lorraine Ann. So they made it up out of their name, so my name is Nicola Ann.
Well, there you go.
Oh, how sweet.
What I've never known that.
Baby Doll is cool. Everybody says if it hurts my feelings,
There he is.
Tell that chicken to shut up.
That's Foster.
That's Foster.
If I
Foster
mind
the
being
rooster.
called Baby Doll, and I love it. I still, to this day, even 35 years later, I love being called Baby Doll. So
well, fantastic.
Cool.
Well, I've
How
always
sweet.
called you Baby Doll. I advertised you on Facebook and Twitter as Baby Doll. I hope that didn't offend you, but as a matter of fact, I didn't know who the hell Nicola Roberts was until I saw you. I said, God damn, that's Baby Doll.
Exactly. Nicola Roberts didn't make a dime. Baby Doll made a lot of money, got a lot of heat. So I don't
She
mind
did
that
get
at
a
all.
lot of heat. She did get a lot of. As a matter of fact, Johnny Fairplay was putting you over big time. He was the guest before you. Did you get to hear any of Johnny?
I didn't. I was feeding goats and turkeys. So I'm sorry. But,
Maya loves goats, by the way. Goats and sheep. Maya,
Yes, I do.
Maya, do your sheep impersonation.
there you go. There you go. I've got a goat named Screaming Mabel. I need to get her a Billy, but I've just got one goat right now.
Yeah?
Black and white. And
What's
she
going
is
on in the
super.
background is
Sweet.
not appropriate. Two cows helping Scooby on camera, and I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Baby Doll, you shouldn't have to see anything like this.
I'm good.
Screaming, I guess you've seen a lot on the farm, right?
Oh yes.
Baby Doll.
I traveled with Flair for 2 years. I saw way more than I wanted to see.
Yeah, I know Rick fairly well myself, and Cornette's told about 100,000 stories. Did you know?
Lord.
Did you know that Ric Flair lost a bet to me on a North Carolina Louisville game in 1986?
Oh no, I did not.
He bet me. This was Rick's bet, and he initiated the bet. He bet me $1,000 to my 100. I'll bet you 10 to 1. So I came up with the amount. I figured I could risk 100. My rent was
Right.
$250 a week back then in 1986. Louisville was going to play North Carolina in the NCAA tournament, and he says, Kenny, I'll bet you 10 to 1 that North Carolina wipes the floor with them. I said, are you giving me any points? He says, nope, straight up. I said, all right.
Wow.
I said, I will take Louisville. I said, I will bet 100 to your 1,000. Is that a deal? He says, it's a deal, but if you lose, you better pay up. I said, if you lose, I would really like for you to pay up. He says, I'll pay up. Well, Louisville plays North Carolina in the NCAA tournament, and Louisville beats North Carolina by 23 points, beat them like a rented mule, and went on to win the national championship in 1986.
That's amazing.
I see Ric Flair in Cincinnati. Me and Cornette go up there, and they got a huge show up there. As a matter of fact, that's the night that WCW sold out their show when WWF was running a show at Riverfront Coliseum and didn't draw flies. And they had Hulk Hogan and the whole Hee Haw gang down there, and you guys sold out your building, and they said WWF didn't draw 2,000 people.
Oh, Lord,
What do you
okay.
think? And I think you were on that show that night, if I remember. You were there in '86, right?
I was on just about every Cincinnati show because we used to stay over in Kentucky.
Yeah, over in
And I believe, what was it, the Drawbridge?
the Drawbridge. As a matter of fact, I got stories that Dusty Rhodes and Tully Blanchard trashed one of those rooms so bad it was almost beyond repair. And I bet it was a true
That
story.
was a unique situation. That was a cool place to stay, but when they said it was the Drawbridge, it was more like the dungeon because I remember it being really dark and
Yes.
just mysterious.
I only stayed there one time, and only because you guys always stayed there, and it was referred to me by others when we had to stay up there once. But I only stayed there one time. there's more Dusty Rhodes, Tully Blanchard stories about that hotel than you can count.
Oh my!
I can't believe they were allowed to stay there. So we go. Jimmy wanted me to pick him up at the airport, so I just did get a Nissan Pulsar. Me and my wife at that time bought a Nissan, and I had to learn how to drive a stick on the way to Cincinnati. So I go there. I go. Yeah, exactly. So I go there. As a matter of fact, Dennis Condrey was race car driving in my Nissan Pulsar, scaring me and Cornette to death because Jimmy don't like Jimmy. But Jimmy back then didn't like to drive fast, and Dennis Condrey was a glorified race car driver, or at least he thought he was. So we go. So we go to the airplane. Ric Flair gets off the plane. I said, "Mr. Flair," I said, "Seems like you owe me $1,000." He looks at me. He says, "You don't really think that I'm going to pay you that $1,000, do you?" And Bobby Eaton's right behind him. He says, "Rick, you made the boy the bet. He needs the money. I would like it if you would pay him." Rick looks at Bobby, looks at me and Cornette, and he says, "I tell you what, here you go." So he pulls out his wallet, and he counts out 10 $100 bills. He says, "Kenny, I just want you to know that was my dinner money for tonight." I said, "Rick, I just want you to know that you paid my rent for 4 months."
There you go.
So
Rick could always get a draw, so it was all right.
Rick could always get a draw. Jimmy said Flair spent money like the national government was just piping it to him. He said he went over to Rick's house one day when he got pissed at WWE and decided to stay home. But when you do that, they pay. It was either WWE or WCW. I think it was WWE. He said he went to Rick's house one day and he says, "Kenny, there must have been 15 checks laying on Rick's coffee table that he'd never cashed."
Oh, gosh.
You believe that shit?
I believe it. I do. And then I went shoe shopping with Flair one time in Atlanta.
Did he buy you a pair? Did he buy you a pair?
He actually ordered them because it wasn't like Flair went in and bought
custom made. Yeah, custom made. Right. Yeah.
He spent $70 on one pair of socks.
Oh,
and bought several pairs.
Oh my! Several pair.
$70 for one pair of socks, and he bought. I can't remember if it was 10 or 12, but it was at least 10 pairs of socks.
This is the year 2020, and I, after losing a dramatic amount of weight, I'm now out of those compression wraps I used to have to wear, and I now wear compression socks. If I see a compression sock that's over $9.99, I lose my damn mind. And they are medical. They're medical socks, and I still, to this day in 2020, won't pay $9.99. And he's dropping $70 on socks. Baby doll, yep, I've never in my life spent $70 on a pair of shoes. My budget is $39.99, and if I can't get it for less than that, then I don't get them. Now I got 12. I got 12 pair of shoes, but damn pair back there that costs more than $39.99.
Hey, I like the $1 pair of flip flops, so I'm happy.
There you go. Now you told me that you've had a bunch of events get postponed or canceled here recently. Same with me. I had some shows in Canada and the Philippines coming up, and we're going to be decent paying gigs, and those are by the wayside for now. Have you been given any clues to when you might be back out and about promoting?
Right now, I think the only thing, well, we have the gathering up in Charlotte in August, and that's still questionable. I think that they're still working on that, but I think a lot of the talent's going to have a hard time coming in.
Yeah.
Tony D'Amato is amazing with what he's done. With Marty, with the gathering, and with Team Art, I'm hoping that they can do that. But I think WrestleCade in November might be my first one coming up. That might be a for sure, depending on like how everything goes.
Right.
I think that a lot of us are just going to have to take in consideration that a lot of the fans are older. And that since this COVID-19 is affecting older people, we have to take that into consideration.
Yeah, at age 60, I've been, as I told Maya, I've been self-quarantined for 8 years. My life hasn't changed that much. I go out once every 2 weeks, whether I have to or not. I do grocery shopping. And my life has not changed much other than I can't watch a damn ball game anymore.
I used to go out to the store like a couple of times a week because I really like fresh meat, fresh vegetables, and buying what I'm going to use in the next 2 or 3 days. And then going out 2 days later and getting out like more fresh vegetables and stuff. But so now it's like a once a week, early Saturday morning, and just trying to get everything that I can. So it's become quite an adventure.
Well, baby doll, you're on a farm, obviously. Do you grow fruits and vegetables or anything like that, or is it just more some livestock and you get free eggs every day?
I have a huge garden. I've taught myself how to can
Yeah.
from like YouTube videos.
I got some
So
mason jars.
I just planted 28 tomato plants.
Yeah.
I've got 2 huge rows of green beans. I've got my garden's probably a quarter acre,
Yeah,
maybe,
that's a
maybe
good
a little
size.
bit more.
Yeah, that's a good size.
And then I'm getting ready to. We're supposed to get close down to freezing on Friday and Saturday, so I've got to plant some squash and some cucumbers. But I'm waiting until it warms up a little bit for that.
Mm-hmm.
I've canned okra, tomatoes,
Maya, you like okra, right?
jalapenos,
I'm okay with okra.
Yeah.
and green beans. I've taught myself how to do that.
Got any watermelon
And
growing?
then,
You got any watermelon?
Of course, watermelon.
Oh, I
and
love
pumpkin.
watermelon. Got cantaloupe?
Cantaloupe I can do. It doesn't get hot enough here.
Oh, okay, okay. I love
For
cantaloupe.
cantaloupe, you really have to have the hot 90 degrees for about 2 weeks, and we just don't have it where I'm at.
Oh, that's a shame. We have it here. We must be growing lots of cantaloupe in Kentucky, Maya. I love cantaloupe. I love watermelon. I love what's the green one I like? Honeydew. I love honeydew melons. But no, that sounds pretty nice. Now how much livestock do you have?
Oh my gosh, I've got 40 chickens, 10 chicks,
Yeah.
3 turkeys, and a goat.
Now, are those turkeys safe, or is Thanksgiving going to be a tough day for one of them?
They're safe. They're
Good.
pets.
Good to hear. Good to hear. We don't want to assume that we're going to be eating any. What are the names of the 3 turkeys?
Duke is the big Tom that I've got now.
Yeah.
And he's like a year old. And then the other 2, I can't tell them apart. So they have to get a little bit older.
Okay, that's fair enough. We'll assume their identity at a later time. Now, here's a question for you. Who was the favorite person you ever managed?
Tully.
I would
By
assume
far.
that would have been the one. Now, Tully, from what I hear, was hard to get along with some people. I know him and Cornette had their issues at times. What was so tough? Did Tully totally believe the gimmick? Because it seemed like everybody in the Horsemen really bought into the gimmick, and some people didn't know when to turn it off, maybe. Was that maybe part of Tully's problem with some people?
Tully is Tully. I mean, that's either you love him or you hate him. There's no like real in between.
Sounds like
and
you just...
Tully's a professional, and I learned so much from Tully.
Yeah.
I can't say a bad thing about him because he treated me like gold.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I had to drive everywhere, but then again, I knew that we were going to be safe.
That's part of the deal.
And I
Yeah.
knew that he was going to be well rested getting to the show.
Was Tully a legit badass?
Yes.
Okay, I had a feeling he might be, and I do remember the WWE career didn't last as long as I thought. I thought him and Arn would do very well up there. For whatever reason, it didn't seem to translate as well there as it did in WCW. But I think some of these angles translate much better to the Southern wrestling population than the Northern-based wrestling populations. Would you agree with that?
I don't think that they let them be
You
who
got
they were
you got to
up
let
there.
them. You got to
I think
let them
that
be
they-
who they are.
I think they tried to mold him to be something else.
Yeah, that's always
And you
disaster.
couldn't do that. They
That's-
didn't let Tully be Tully.
Yeah.
They didn't let Arn be Arn. They tried to make him Bobby Heenan's guys, which would have been fine, but that's not who they were.
Yeah, exactly. And I love Bobby Heenan with a passion. I got to hang out with him for 2 or 3 days at Cornette's house, and he did an angle with me on television. I never met a sweeter, nicer man than Bobby Heenan, or at least he was to me. I know.
Okay, I will give you a Bobby Heenan story, and then I'll get out of here, okay?
Fantastic. I got 5 minutes before the next guest, but I would bump him for
this,
you.
This, will work out. This is about a 3-minute story, and then we can talk about. Okay, I
Go
was
right
in
ahead.
Tampa.
All right.
Sam was working for WWF, it was WWF. at the time.
Sam Houston, for those that don't know.
Right, and we were married, and I was working for Piedmont Airlines at the time because it was
Wow.
a sweet deal because I could fly to go see him whenever they had TVs or a couple of days somewhere. I could go in and fly in and see him.
Baby
and it wouldn't
doll,
cost us anything.
baby doll.
Plus-
First time I ever flew to see my dad. First time I was ever on a plane. I flew Piedmont Airlines.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
But it was a great airlines, and I did mail transfer for him, and it was a good gig.
yeah,
So whenever, and at that time, WWF was making their talent buy their tickets home, so that if you were in Portland for the last night of your run, and you had to get home, then you had to buy your own ticket from like Portland to Charlotte.
Right.
So it worked out really well with Sam, with me working for Piedmont, because then I would just use my ID stuff and get him a ticket home. It wouldn't cost us.
I bet he did love you.
So then, anyway, so we were in Tampa, and I was at the luggage carousel waiting to get my bag.
Yeah.
And someone came up behind me and said, Linda, it's time to go. I got the car. And I didn't pay any attention to it because I'm not Linda, and I didn't know if they were talking to me or somebody next to me.
Right.
And so I'm like waiting for my bag, and then they like got the inside of my arm and kind of pinched me and said, Linda, it's time to go. We got the car.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And at the time, like with fans and stuff, I didn't want to bother anybody. I was just there to see Sam, and just obviously someone's made a mistake.
Yeah.
So the next time they actually grab my arm and say, Linda, the car is ready. We've got to go.
Yeah.
And I turned around as Bobby Heenan, and Bobby was like, "Oh, you're not Linda," and walked away.
Who did he think you
were?
It
wasn't until I saw the Hulk Hogan series with Linda and his wife.
He thought you were Hogan's wife.
He thought I was Linda Hogan.
Oh my God! Oh, it's an amazing story. As a matter of fact, Heenan told me a quick story about flying with Andre the Giant, and he said that Andre liked to fly drunk a lot. And he said that Andre told the stewardess or flight attendant, whatever you called him back then, that he can I get you anything? I want a screwdriver. And she goes back, she hands him, and he's drunk on his ass, and she hands him a real screwdriver. And Heenan says, Miss, did you just give a 7'4" tall man, 540 pounds, drunk on his ass, an actual screwdriver on an airplane? You should lose your job. Please, God, get that from him. So Heenan couldn't believe the stewardess gave him a real screwdriver just because he asked for it. He wanted the drink.
Where did you come up with a screwdriver? That's like
you got me on that one. You got me on that one. That the airplane had a screwdriver. I guess in case one of the wings came loose is the only thing I can figure.
I guess so, right?
Oh my God.
She was well prepared.
She certainly was, and Heenan wasn't happy about it. And Heenan was telling me about somebody that he just hated in the business. Did him and Shivani not get along good?
I don't know. I mean, who could not get along with either one of those guys?
Well, I know. I've met Tony many times, and Kevin Kelly in the WWE. He and I have always been dear friends. But there was somebody in the business he hated. It seemed like it was Kevin Kelly, and I was a little shocked. But Chris will remember. When's Chris going to come and join us?
In a minute.
Fantastic. Baby doll, anything else you'd like to plug? I got a guest scheduled to be in here at 2, but it's Hillbilly. I can bump his ass if you need.
No, I've got things to do, and it was nice spending some time with y'all, and I hope you get your money raised and help some people out. And I appreciate y'all remembering me.
Baby doll, if things get tight, I'm going to count on you to sell those turkeys and chickens and help me out.
Oh.
I guess
you might need to get another plan.
I guess we're screwed, Maya. She's not selling those turkeys.
Ah, what a shame.
Thank you, sweetie. It's been a pleasure, and the fans love having you on, and they all said to tell you they love you, and thank you so much for being on.
Oh, you're welcome. Have a great day.
I said, bye. Good day, sweetie. Good.